Hi guys, welcome back to the complete mobile app development tutorial series using Google Flutter for beginners. This is part 6 of this series. The purpose of today's video tutorial is to give you a quick introduction to Dart programming language before installing and starting to use it. So without a further ado, let's get into the tutorial. So the first question is, what is Dart? Dart is a general purpose programming language which was created by Google in 2011. Like Java, which is developed by Oracle, and C# by Microsoft, it has a similar syntax to C and C++. Unlike any other conventional languages which are deployed to run and execute for a specific platform only, Dart has been optimized to be deployed to run on a variety of platforms. You can run it within a web browser as JavaScript, or as an interpreted application, or as a native applications. So to learn more about Dart programming language, let's see some of its examples so that we can better understand about Dart programming language. All the examples in this video tutorial will be executed using dartpad.dev, which is an online Dart and Flutter editor. So as an introduction, I have said that Dart is like Java, where every Dart program must start with a main function. So whatever you use, you must start your Dart application using void main, and then within these curly brackets, you write your code to execute. For example, I write here hello world, and you must complete it with a semicolon. Your syntax must be completed with a semicolon. So this is our first Dart programming language example. Here I have just written a function which is a print, and in the double quotes I have written hello world. So when I run it in the console, it will show me an output of hello world. So this is a perfect example of Dart programming language where you print something on the console screen. Here I'm using console screen. If you have already installed Dart programming package or Dart SDK on your computer, you can run it on the console as well with Dart and then the name file, and it will execute and give you the same output on the screen. So now we will talk about two different types of languages. One is statically typed and the second one is dynamically typed languages. Typically, most computer languages have fallen into two categories: statically typed and dynamically typed languages. Statically typed languages have specific variable types, and the developer compiles the code using an ahead of time or AOT compiler. The advantage of this type of programming language is that it is an excellent way to develop software, as the compiler performs static analysis of the code as part of the compilation. The software developed in this manner typically works better in complex scenarios. The disadvantage of this approach is software typically takes longer time to develop. On the other hand, dynamically typed languages don't have specific variable types, and no AOT or ahead of time compilation is performed. The advantage of using this approach is dynamically typed languages make the development process very quick, as the developer does not typically need to recompile the code. And the disadvantage only it have that code developed in this manner tends to lend itself to simpler scenarios, as it can be more error prone. So you can't use this technique in a complex scenario. So that is the advantages and disadvantages of these two types of languages: statically typed languages and dynamically typed languages. So let's talk about variables and data types in Dart programming language. But before talking about Dart, let's talk about that most computer languages have fallen into two categories of variable types. One is called statically typed and the other one is called dynamically typed programming language. In statically typed programming language, which have specific variable types, and the developer compiles the code using an AOT or ahead of time compiler. The advantage of using statically typed language is that it is an excellent way to develop software, as the compiler performs static analysis of the code as part of the compilation, and the software developed in this manner typically works better in complex scenarios. But there is only one problem with this approach, that software typically takes longer to develop. On the other hand, if we talked about dynamically typed languages that don't have a specific variable types and no ahead of time compilation is performed, so advantage of using dynamically typed programming language is that it makes the development process very quick, and the developer does not typically needs to recompile the code. The only disadvantage of this approach is that code developed in this manner tends to lend itself to simpler scenarios, as it can be more error prone if you are using any complex scenario, if you are going to use it in any complex scenario. So coming back to the Dart programming language, Dart is a different programming language because it can be run with both static type and dynamic type variables. When the type system in Dart 1 was introduced, it had some issues and they introduced a strong mode for stronger type checking. This mode has become the typing system in Dart 2.0, and it offers strong guarantees that an expression of one type cannot produce a value of another type. So Dart performs type checking at two different types, either when you are compiling the code or when you are running the code. The most commonly used built-in Dart types are, here I must write them for you. These types are int, which is called integer, then double, which contain more value than integer, then we have a bool, which can be true or false, then we have a string and string buffer, reg xp list, map, set, date, time, duration, and URI. These are the statically typed data types in Dart programming language. As I said that Dart also supports dynamic type languages, dynamically typed variables. So to define dynamically typed variables, you use either dynamic or var keyword. So now why there are two types of keywords for dynamically typed variables? Because they are used for different purposes. The dynamic define a return type of every variable which you create, whereas var keyword does not obey this rule and does not contain any type of that variable. So you can reassign anything else to that particular variable when you create them. For example, if in this scenario I have a dynamic variable a with the value of 100, and now if I say a is equal to hello, and if I try to print a, you will see if I run this code, it prints hello. It does not complain anything about that its type. But when I see this is dynamic type, if I type int and then I try to assign a to hello, now the compiler will complain a value of type string can't be assigned to a variable of type int on line number 3. This is statically typed. But when I use dynamic, a is equal to 100, then I can reassign any other values to this type of variable without any problem, and the code will run. Same goes for var. If I have a var variable and then I have a is equal to hello, and now I say a value of type string cannot be assigned to a variable of type int. So in this case, var, I have assigned var a value of 100. So when it does not contain any return type, then I cannot assign a is equal to another data type. I have to give the same type of value, like I can say 200, that's fine, and it will not complain anything. But in case of dynamic, as it automatically return its data type, so in this case I can use any different language, any different value of that particular variable. I can say hello and it will not complain me. So that is the proper difference between dynamic and var keyword and statically and dynamically typed variables. In dynamically typed variable, you don't need to define what kind of variable what kind of value it's going to hold, whereas in statically typed variable you have to define and you cannot reassign it a different value. So these are two different types of variable types supported inside Dart programming language. So now we know that Dart programming language support both types of both types of variable, dynamically and statically typed variables. So if we want to check what kind of variable or what is the type of that particular variable, Dart allow users or allow us to check for types using the is keyword. So for example, if I say print a is int, and this is the data type, and if I run the code, it will return us false because we have assigned a is equal to hello here. But if I remove this line and then run the code again, it will say true. So because dynamic A create a variable which contain 100 value. So what if I say 100.00 and then if I run it, still it gives us correct number. But if I say A is string, this time it will give us false because A is not a string. So with this scenario we can check the type of any variable which are created using dynamic or var keyword, or if I use a var here and then I will say A is int and run it, it says false. You see, it is saying now it is saying true. Of course A is an int, and if I say A is a string and I run the code, it says false. So this is how you can check that what is the type of variable or what kind of value it contains, the variable. As we know that Dart programming language is an object-oriented programming language, so everything which you declare as a variable is an object itself. So Dart gives the developer a way to get information about an object's type at runtime. You can use object's runtime type property which returns a type object. For example, here we are checking that what is the type, but here we can print what is its type. So if I say a dot runtime type and run this code, it will give us int. It will tell us that its type is int, and if a is equal to hello or Google Flutter, now it will say a dot runtime will return us string. There you go. You see, it returns us string. And if I say a is equal to true, it will return us its data type, which is bool. So here it's saying it's a boolean value. So you can check the type of any variable by using a dot runtime type. A is an object and you can check its type by using a dot runtime type. So as in this example, you see that I have assigned Google Flutter to a variable, and when I checked its runtime type, it shows us in the console that it is a string. So for this, we already know that anything enclosed in a single quote or in a double quotes is called a string. Here it is. Now I have enclosed it in a string, in a single quote, so it's still saying us it is a string. So one very useful feature of Dart is its string interpolation. You can put the value of an expression inside a string by using a dollar sign and its expression. For example, if I have another variable var message is equal to hello, and I want to embed this message variable within this Google Flutter, I can say that message plus Google Flutter. A is equal to message plus Google Flutter, and now if I run print A, it will say hello Google Flutter. So that is fine, but this using message plus Google Flutter is very annoying. So the Dart programming language give us another feature which we can use directly inside our double quoted string, that dollar sign, and then within this within this double quotes I can use dollar, then curly brackets, and here I can say message. Now this is called string interpolation, which it will automatically translate this message into hello, and when I run this code, so it says hello Google Flutter, but at the same time it is showing us some info. Avoid using braces in interpolation when not needed. It is saying us that avoid using these braces in interpolation when not needed. So if I say like this dollar message, sometimes you don't need to write this curly brackets because you are not using any expression, you are simply displaying message variable. So in this case we don't need to put curly brackets around, and it will give us the same output. So there are two ways using this interpolation in Dart programming language. One is the simple way, and the other one is using expression. For example, if I say 2 plus 2, so now it will say 2 plus 2 4 and Google Flutter, 4 Google Flutter. So this is how you use interpolation with strings inside Dart programming language. Dart also support another type of strings which is called raw string. So normally you can add escape characters to format your string. For example, if I put a /n here and I run this code, it will break this code into 2 lines. So this is normal. However, you can prefix the string with an R to indicate, to tell Dart to treat the string differently or to ignore the escape characters. For example, if I put R in the start of this a variable and simple or by writing this is now become a raw string. And now if I run this code, you see it outputs as it is, as if even it didn't calculate this expression 2 plus 2, but previously you have seen that 2 plus 2 was returned as 4, but now it uses the raw string approach and write the string as it is without manipulating or without calculating your expressions, and also not using the escape characters. So this is a very good example of raw string. Also, if you have a variables, for example, I have a variable double, which is some kind of price like 100.75. So if I want to print like this, print price is, and I want to display a dollar symbol. But as you know that if I use like this, price is dollar price, and if I run it, sorry, I have to remove this print line and put a semicolon here. Never forget to put a semicolon. So now it will display price is 100.75, but this is a dollar. So I want to display a dollar before 100. So for that I have to escape it. So I will write slash dollar and then dollar price. Now this slash dollar will display this as a dollar. So I will run it. And now you see price is $100.75. So this is another approach of using the strings inside Dart programming languages. You can escape any character, especially the dollar sign, because we know that a dollar sign is used for interpolation. So to escape the dollar sign, you have to use a slash, a forward slash before the dollar sign, and then you use a normal dollar sign variable. But if I don't use and put a double dollar, it will give us error expected and identifier on line number 3. So that is why I have to use an escape character slash and then put a dollar sign, and this time it will display a dollar sign before the 100.75 value. So Dart programming language also supports conditional statements, loops. As if I go to Dart official website of Dart programming language .dev, and then I will go to docs. In the docs, if I go to sample tutorials and language samples, you can see here we have variables, which are different types of variables, and then we have control flow statements. These statements can control the flow of any program, like if here is this, then print this, if else, if here is this, then print this, else is this, then this. We can use same like in C and C++. Also we can use for loop for object in, or for int month is equal to 1, month is less than equal to 12, month plus plus. This is a standard way of using a for loop and while loops. Also we can create functions and their return types by prefixing it with a data type like int, and or we can use a dynamic keyword here as well. But in function there is one more thing, that we cannot use var as a return type, because let me give you an example. I will copy this code, and in the Dart pad I will paste it inside this main. I think there is no main, so it's a function. So I will create a function here, int Fibonacci, and if I call this print Fibonacci, sorry, and pass with 5, and let's close the bracket, it will return us the value 5. So it is true. So if I type 6, it gives us is Fibonacci number 8 in 8. So but when I use a dynamic return type and run it again, it will work without any issue. But if I use a var as a return type, then it will complain the error. The return type cannot be var on line number 6. That is true. It will not execute this program because of this error. So error compiling to JavaScript main.dart. The return type cannot be var Fibonacci. You see it's saying there. Here you cannot use var. Either you use dynamic or exact data type. For example, if I say var or if I say string, and then it says a value of type int cannot be returned from function Fibonacci because it has a return type of string. So you see, it is taking int, so it is returning integer, and it's complaining that it cannot be a string. So you need to put a double here. If I put a double, and if I run it, so even you see, a value of type int cannot be assigned to a variable of type double. Even it is complaining now that you cannot use this double as a return type because I'm passing here a simple int. So you have to use, sorry, int data type. So this is a very powerful feature of Dart programming language, as it supports almost both types of data types of statically typed data language variables and dynamically typed variables. So guys, this is it. This was our video tutorial for today, where we learned about the basic introduction of Dart programming language. In the next video tutorial, we will talk object-oriented approach in Dart programming language. I hope you have already pressed the like button for this video tutorial. If not, then do press the like button. And if you are interested to learn more about Google and Dart programming language, then don't forget to subscribe to the TechTechTuts channel by pressing the red button below. With that being said, I'm your host on TechTechTuts signing off. Take care and goodbye.